everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. Today we are working on Sewcialites Quilt Along 2022 Block 2. Last week we did Block 1, as you may remember, but when I finished this, I wasn't crazy about the color scheme. I mean, I like the color scheme in this block, but it wasn't what I was going for this quilt in particular. So I did go back and I made four blocks in this color scheme. I'll show you this a little bit better in a second when we flip the camera around. I'm not crazy about how this one turned out either, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But I don't have to use any of these blocks. Basically, as I mentioned, I'm kind of doing my own thing with this quilt along. Sometimes I may be making 3-inch blocks, 6-inch blocks, 9-inch blocks. I may be making one or multiple. So at the end, I'm just gonna see what I have and put a quilt together. So I may use these, I may not. But let's go ahead and pull some fabric for block 2, take a look at the pattern, and make up our block, or blocks. Here's our block here. I'm going to be doing the 6-inch version, but I think I'm going to be doing 4 of these. And what I want to do is when you put them next to each other, in the center you'll have these 4 little pieces, and I want the 4 little pieces to have no seams, just to be a large square of some sort of novelty print. So let me go ahead and pick out a novelty, pick out some other fabrics, and then we'll see if we can make this happen. I'm leaning between these two, this pretty mushroom print here with the acorns or the sailboats, and I'll probably use both of these at some point in this quilt. But let me pair some things together that I might want to use. So I think these could kind of work with either of them. This blue is one that I used in my initial block that I made. So if I used this block in the quilt, it would be nice to have that fabric somewhere else in it. This, there might be too much going on. Here's the fabrics I'm going with. I'm gonna go with this mushroom, blue mushroom with the acorns. I love that print. So this will be the big square that I end up with. This is the background. This one has the stars, plaid and circles, and this circle one I used in these blocks here. So this is the redo that I did from last week. And what I don't care for about this is that the light blue really blends too much with the background. I really wish that this popped, these pinwheels popped a little bit more. I didn't realize when I was picking my fabrics how similar in tone these were. But again, you know, I can use them or not. But so this blue here, I'm gonna use today as well. So let me cut some pieces, sew a little bit, and then we'll touch base. My first step was to make 2 of these flying geese blocks, but as you remember, I'm making 4 blocks to kind of surround this novelty fabric here. So I have 8 of these blocks, and out of those 8 blocks, it was a nice little surprise because I got these 16 little half square triangles, which I think are adorable. So for this, I did not pay attention to the direction of the fabric, and I did that on purpose. I just didn't think it made a big enough difference. Once this block comes together, it will all kind of blend, and I like that, you know, the airplanes seems to make sense, that some of them are going in one direction and some of them are going in another. So for these half square triangles, I am going to start sewing these together. So instead of just saving these until I have a better sense of what I'm going to do with them, I am going to use them as leader enders for sewing the rest of my block. What I need to decide is how I want to put these together, and I'm kind of inclined to just kind of put 2 at a time together, kind of like this, and then just leave them as doubles, or I could just put them all the same way like that. But I think I like this one better. That gives the opportunity, I think. So if I made a bunch of them like this, then I think, scooch this down, I think I could put them together. No, that would not make a pinwheel. How would I make the pinwheel? It would have to be, like this, I think. Is that a pinwheel? Yes. So that means I'd need to have 2 of them be like that, and 2 of them be like this, which I think, what if I turn these upside down? Is it the same thing? It is. Look at that. So I'm just gonna make a bunch of duplicates just like this. And then when I get to a point where I think I might wanna use them, I can either do the pinwheel like I just showed, or I can just line them up to make a little row, maybe to, you know, connect some blocks together or something like that. But that's adorable. I think that's really cute. Let me keep going. I have 8 of these blocks here. I think they actually go like this. So this would be the background. Let me show you where it is on here. So it'd be this kind of strip right across the top right here, and then another one on the side, right like that. So from these pieces, I was able to cut off, you know, more of these. So basically when I sewed this on, this one here was like this, right? And so I sewed another line, cut it in half, and then had this piece and that piece. And same with the other side. I have some in the brown as well. So before I go on to the next step, let me think what I want to do with these. So let's see. I have a brown and a blue. That's kind of cool. That is pretty awesome like that. So maybe I'll start, as leaders and enders, I'll also start sewing these ones together. Now that I look at this, I'm actually not sure. Is this how I had it? This doesn't make sense because you have a blue, you know, it's facing this direction, down, and then up. So that doesn't work. Maybe what I'll do is just have all the blue triangles, the dark blue triangles, facing the same way. And then it can just end up being, you know, a strip. And then I can attach that strip to another block or make it as a border or something like that, like this. So I'll just start putting twos together. I've made some real progress here. It is the next day, and this is our block. So I'm starting to put together 2 of these blocks. I have the pieces cut for them. As you can see, I've added another fabric here. I added this print. This print was supposed to be this kind of plaid dark blue was supposed to also be here, but I thought I would change it up a little bit and do that print to add a 5th fabric. The other thing that I did last night, these were the blocks that I had done from last week that I wasn't really happy with because the blue kind of blended too much with the background of the gray. And so I did kind of this big stitch quilting along, I guess it would be stitching, just big stitching to kind of define that space a little bit. I like it better. What I think I dislike generally about this block is that there are so many seams, and what I realized is that there don't need to actually be that many seams. You could have constructed this where this was one piece, this was one piece, this was, and then you sewed these 4 pieces together. And if you did that, and you look at it like this, you could have just started with this light blue, added these 2 pieces to make a long flying geese, and then added this piece here, right? And then this would be a full gray fabric without the seam, and you could have just sewn those 2 together, which is the same for all 4 quadrants, and then sewn those 4 quadrants together. So there's a lot of seams. I don't mind seams when they're necessary, but when they're unnecessary, it bothers me. So I don't love that, but I do like these blocks better than I did. This one I did in kind of a navy blue thread, and this one I did in the brown thread. So I have 3 brown threads and 1 navy thread, and I like that one is different than the other one. So the other thing about this is that the missing piece here is, so this is one block, this is the same block but turned, and I'll do this for 2 more blocks so that they're kind of radiating out from the middle. And as I had mentioned, I wanted to cut a bigger piece of this fabric to kind of put here. But after lots of consideration and thinking and looking at how to construct, it is possible to do that, but it would be a real pain. And I just don't want to deal with that right now. So I'm going to, so this would need to be a piece of fabric here. This would be a separate piece of fabric, another one. And I don't want all of these fabrics to be the same, because then it just, you know, it has the seam and I don't think it would look very good. So what I want to do is do, a fabric here and the same fabric here, and then a different fabric here and a different fabric here. It'd be like a little mini 4-patch checkerboard kind of thing. So let me look and see what fabrics I have for that. But we're almost ready to really start putting this block together, which is exciting. It is the next day. I spent a lot of time yesterday trying to decide what to do with these pieces in the middle here. As you remember, I said I was going to do kind of a checkerboard, which I've done here, but I've also changed these outer pieces. But I had kind of gone through so many different options, anywhere from keeping these ones to be that checkered, or adding, you know, one of these leafy brown bits. I also tried some of this solidy denim looking fabric here. As you remember, this was initially what I was going to do, was to have these pretty pieces, but in the end I just felt like it didn't read quite as well, though that does look really nice. The point is, I have a bunch of these pieces left over. These are all 2-inch squares, and I just cut so many of them. Ultimately, I went with this nautical fabric. I did try some with the brown, which I thought could look really cool. So for a while I was thinking I would do, you know, every other one in the brown. But I'm happy with what I've finally decided. I am going to sew these together now. I was thinking how cool it would be to have more of these. You know, if I sewed these 4 blocks to be 1 block and then made that 4 times, you could end up making, you know, a diagonal diamond if you put 4 of those next to each other, which would be really cool. But I think I'm going to just leave this as is this time. So let me go ahead and sew this up. So with all of these 2-inch squares, I was thinking I could do something like this to create kind of a checkerboard border that could either go, you know, anywhere in the quilt, including as like a border around the full quilt, or a border connecting blocks together. But so that's an option. I may sew some of these together, but not yet. I'm going to kind of hold on to these and see how they're best used. Here are our 4 blocks complete. They're all pointing the same direction, but when you rotate them, you end up with this larger block that has these beautiful diagonals going on here. So last step is I just need to sew these pieces together, and then we'll have our full block done. Also, I went ahead and trimmed the inner sides here so that when I sew the blocks together, they'll be nice and straight, but I left these outer sides untrimmed, and then at the end I can trim them. I probably won't trim them until I'm ready to connect this full block to another block. Like I did last week, I will take my glue here and along all the outer seams, just do a tiny dab of glue, since it's going to be a while until all my blocks are complete and I don't want them to start unraveling. But let's sew this up. Here is the finished block. I'm really happy with it. I think I am going to end the video here, but I think before next week, I may put a little 1-inch border of this background fabric on, just to give it a little bit of breathing room. The only thing I'm not totally crazy about is this boat got a little bit cut off. I had to trim a little bit more than I had anticipated, so you kind of see how these don't line up, and the reason why I had to do that was to make this edge border line up, because this edge border lining up was more important to me than the center. I didn't want all of my tips to be cut off. So this is a tiny bit not the best in the middle, but it really doesn't bother me. I think it's totally fine, and I think it's a really attractive block. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.